Welcome to the Overcoming Mediocrity podcast, where today's top influencers and entrepreneurs on the rise share empowering stories and ninja tips to become the fuel that ignites a positive change in your life. Our guests don't simply coast through life. They don't let difficult situations stop them. They set big goals, keep their eyes on the prize, and they're joining us today to share insider secrets you can use right now to step into your power and live your purpose. Now, here's your host, Christy Ruffino.
Well, hello and welcome to the Overcoming Mediocrity Show. This is Christy Ruffino, and I'm very excited to have you all meet my friend, Dr. Rich Greene. Welcome, Rich.
Hey, Christy, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's going to be fun. We're going to have a great time together. So Rich and I met just recently at an event. We were part of a program for a while, and he is an incredible man with an amazing story. So I'm going to go ahead and read his bio so you can kind of get to know a little bit about who he is. And he's got a lot of credentials here. So Dr. Rich Greene is a 7-time Ironman Triathlete, performance expert, and business coach. His IronMan Sales Success Formula has been featured on ABC, CBS, NBC, and Fox. Wow, I think you got all of the acronyms there. All of the TV shows, stations.
Go ahead.
His client list includes Microsoft, Whole Foods, Target, JP Morgan Chase, CVS, Coors, the Mayo Clinic, and Coca-Cola, among many, many others. He has more than 30 years experience as a successful sales professional across a variety of industries, helping his clients sell well over $100 million in business. So Rich discovered that Ironman athletes have a unique way of thinking about success, and that their mindset is so powerful that it enables them to face extreme challenges and succeed where most other people would fail. And that is what makes him unique in his industry, because he has distilled the Ironman mindset into an elite executive training program called the IronCode that can make your success unstoppable. And most importantly, along the way, he found that his mission of helping ordinary people do extraordinary things is what drives him. Wow. I want to become unstoppable.
You already are unstoppable. In fact, I love the name of your podcast because it goes along really nicely with what I always say and what I always work with people on, which is, you're all about overcoming mediocrity. And I think that ordinary people can do extraordinary things. And that's what I love to help people do.
Yeah. And there has to be something into this whole mindset about doing an Ironman, because I know a friend of mine, she did an Iron Woman. I don't know if that's what they call it, but she's pretty incredible. And when I learned what she had to do to make that happen, I can't imagine. So if you can take those strategies and that mindset and whatever it is that you've created in your program and help ordinary people do extraordinary things, I am all in. I love this.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that too, because you know what? Anybody can do extraordinary things, even if you think that maybe you don't have any experience in that area. I didn't start out doing athletics. Well, actually, until I was 51 years old. I never moved a muscle my entire adult life.
Oh, well, that gives me hope.
I would say I was pretty ordinary. Not really. In fact, Christy, I didn't start out that way. If I may, I'll just tell you what happened.
Yeah, that was going to be my next thing is what is your story? How did you get into this? Especially at 51. Holy cow.
51. Yeah. At 50, I got a wake-up call. And I hadn't been feeling very well. And I was dizzy a lot and just not feeling great. So I went to the doctor, and I waited for nearly an hour. And when they led me into the examination room, I mean, I wasn't in great spirits. I mean, I could smell the antiseptic. I was looking at everything negative. It was cold. I thought to myself, this is a place where people go to die. Uh, and, when I told the doctor, I described my symptoms, had a kind of a concerned look on his face. And he said, Mr. Greene, he didn't call me doctor. He said, Mr. Greene, wait right there. And he came back in with this nurse, and they were both rolling this big machine, an EKG machine, a heart monitor. It was just for me. And Christy, I knew at this point that I was in trouble, because normally they just write you a prescription and send you on your way, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but they had more for you. Holy cow.
They had more for me. My blood pressure was 209/107. And I hadn't been taking care of myself. I wasn't in great shape. I was 50 pounds overweight. And as I said earlier, never exercised a day in my life.
Yeah. So 50 pounds overweight isn't necessarily bad. I mean, it's bad, but the fact that none of it was muscle, right? And you had no endurance, no strength, you had nothing. It's all of that combined, right?
Well, I think the key word was muscle versus fat. So I was,
Right.
I had a 32 BMI, which is obese. So I knew I had to do something. And, especially when the doctor said, when I asked, I said, am I going to have a heart attack? Because that's what I thought. And he said, no, probably a stroke.
Oh, yikes.
I knew that was worse. And that was the point when everything changed for me. And I was 50 years old, and I decided I needed to make some dramatic changes to my life. And so I went home, and I threw everything that was bad away in the cabinets, all the Ho-Hos and the Doritos and the Red Bulls and all of the stuff that I liked. I even threw my kids' Pop-Tarts away. I was just so worried that I was going to, cheat. And I went to the health food store that afternoon, and I came home with 2 bags full of fresh fruits and vegetables and other stuff that, honestly, Christy, I didn't know what to do with, but I knew I needed to do something. And so that began the diet part. And then I realized that I'd never exercised my entire adult life, and I needed to do something there. So I started swimming, which is what I did when I was in high school. And I signed up for this really, really gnarly, long 12.5-mile ocean swim, and I got a coach. Yeah, I know it was a lot. And I got a coach, and she said, Rich, it's not all about swimming, it's about endurance. She said, do you ride a bike? I said, no, coach, I drive a car. Why would I ride a bike? And she said, well, I think you should ride a bike, because that's going to help you. So I got a bike and I started riding a bike. And then she said, do you run? I go, Coach, I hate running. I've got a bad back. My hip hurts. And she said, I think that's even more the reason you should run. So Christy, here I am. I'm swimming, I'm biking, I'm running. Before I know it, I'm accidentally training for a triathlon.
Oh, wait. How does one accidentally train for a triathlon?
So, I didn't know it. I was just doing those things.
Yes.
And I kind of got tricked. And the coach said, there's this bunch of the guys are doing this triathlon. Would you like to do a triathlon? So I gave it a try, and I did this Olympic distance triathlon. It was the toughest thing I've ever done. And I thought, wow, if I can do that from where I'm at, I wonder what the toughest triathlon is. So you and I know each other, and you know that I'm a type A. So I couldn't just do, something one step up. I went to look for the toughest one, and I found the Ironman. And the Ironman is a 2.4 mile swim, followed by a 112-mile bike ride. And then once you're done with that, you run a marathon.
Yikes. All at one time.
All at one time. It's an incredibly long day. So
is it all in one day? You can do that all in one day?
You have to do it within 17 hours.
Whoa, that's even worse.
So yes, the clock can be your enemy. But I obviously, you just said that I finished 7. I'm training for number 8 right now. I'll be 60. And if I can do it going from 50 pounds overweight and being in really bad health and never have done anything like that in my life, gosh, anybody could do something like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so we're not going to get into like how to run a or how to be an Ironman, because I know you've taken the skill set around that and kind of transformed it into how do you help your clients with sales. But there's still a couple of things that I want to dive into, because when we're faced with a decision, sometimes we can't just like go baby steps. We have to like jump in, no turning back. We got to make this happen. And I think that's why a lot of people, and me in some respects as well, we kind of get comfortable and we coast through life. And that's the whole mediocrity thing. To be mediocre is easy. To do something big is hard. And you set your eyes on the prize and you cleaned out your cabinets, which I'm sure your kids didn't like, because those Pop-Tarts can be delicious. But you know what? You needed to make sure that you were going to accomplish your goal, and you got a trainer and you did it. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And I think and I found that all of the things I've learned from Ironman translate and transfer very nicely to life and to business. And so, as you indicated, I've taken the things that I've learned as an Ironman triathlete and been able to take those same lessons to help people get unstoppable success in their business. And that's been the most fun for me.
So we're going to get into some strategies after our commercial break, but can you share a success story from one of your clients? Because I think that's, when we're talking about story, I'd love to hear a success story of something that your client did that transformed from being mediocre to unstoppable.
Okay.
I know I'm just kind of like throwing this at you really quick.
No, that's good. I'm going to try to think about one that's simple here. Okay. Here's one. It's all about time. So as a triathlete, and we just talked about 17 hours, right? You got to finish the race in 17 hours. You also have to finish portions of the race within certain time periods. So if you miss those, they just kick you out of the race. You're done. So time is really important when you've got 140 miles that you've got to do. And you have to plan every step that you take, or every pedal, that's on that bike ride, or every stroke of the swim. You have to plan everything that you're doing along the way. And you have to plan it by the time. How fast am I going to run? When am I going to finish? When am I going to eat? You have to make the decision whether you're going to stop and go to the bathroom or not along the way. Yes, that's actually, something that you have to think about, because if you stop to go to the bathroom, it takes time, right? And we're not going to get into those strategies if you decide not to do that. So we'll save the listeners from that. But time is really big. And in our daily lives, time is really big as well. And so I had he was an executive that I'd worked with professionally, but not as a client. And he knew what I did with other executives. And he called me and said, and this is vice president level, he said, I got this new job, Rich, I've got this new job, and I am failing miserable at it. My boss actually came to me and said, you got 2 weeks to clean up your act. And I'm paraphrasing here, clean up your act or you're gone. 2 weeks. Well, it turned out that this guy was not managing his time very well. He had 4 different time zones, actually, of people that he had to serve. He was on the East Coast and he had all these different time zones of people that he had to serve. He had different departments. He had his own responsibilities. And, you all know how hard it is to stay focused. Christy, I don't know if you're like me, but sometimes the phone rings and then you're off doing something else and you forget about what you're working on.
Yeah, all the time. Because multitasking is not the best way to do things, but sometimes we end up by doing that and then balls get dropped.
We do. And actually the studies show that you can be 40% less productive by multitasking.
Yes.
So focus is one of those huge things. And it's big in the Ironman, and it's big in life too. So he and I just worked together on focus, on making sure that we targeted the most critical things that he had to do in his day. Learn to tell people learn to say no to people, learn to schedule what he was going to do in the day. And I've got some very simple strategies that I teach people to use that are very effective, that will 8 to 10 times your productivity. So we put those into play, and it was tough because it meant in 2 weeks he had to break down some habits that he'd had for decades. But I'm happy to say that he called me. It was about 2.5 weeks, and I was really worried about that phone call. I thought, is he calling me to say he's gone?
Yes. All right.
Okay. And he called me and said, I am so happy that things have worked out so well. I've been keeping my job. And guess what? Things at home are even better because I'm not working all hours of the night. So that's a very simple success story, but taken from my lessons as an Ironman and applying those to some very simple time management techniques, but giving them a unique twist.
So he kind of had the same moment that you had when the doctor rolled that card in. He had his boss come and say, you've got 2 weeks to shape up or we're going to ship you out. And
Yeah.
sometimes we need that as the catalyst, but other times, why wait till it gets that bad? So that's maybe something that, I want everybody to think about. Don't wait until things get so bad. And that's why we're going to come back in a moment after our break, and we're going to dive into some of these strategies, because I know you're going to be able to equip our audience to do some pretty cool things.
Yeah, I can't wait, because what I really want to help people to understand is there's a simple formula for winning. So
Okay.
I'm going to share that formula.
All right. So hang tight, everybody. We'll be right back. Anyone can network. Yes, anyone can meet people and collect business cards. However, not everyone knows how to network in a way that will provide them with a regular supply of new and repeat business. Treasured Tribes is more than just another networking book. This revolutionary book will show you how to adapt different strategies with your networking efforts that will get you better results than ever before. To grab your copy, visit www.treasuredtribes.com. Well, we are back. This is Christy, and we have Rich Greene. And Rich was sharing about his story and his client's story. And Rich, what can you do to help anybody in our audience that may right now be struggling with some sort of a tough challenge they're facing?
Christy, thanks. That's a great question. And it's one that's universal, because everybody faces tough challenges in their life. And so again, I'll go back to the Ironman, because the experiences I learned in Ironman are extremely unique. But they apply so nicely to just life. And I think what I want to share is a 4-step process that I actually developed and learned while I was doing an Ironman race, and one which you can use in your personal life when you're faced with a challenge.
Great. Well, I got my pen ready.
Okay, so here's where it starts. It starts at mile 87 of the bike ride. I had already done my 2.4 mile swim, and I was going to an aid station at mile 87 of the bike ride. Now, an aid station is exactly what you think it would be. It's a place where you get aid, some water, some Gatorade, maybe a little snack, just enough to keep you going and get back on that bike, or just grab something while you're riding. They hand you food and pedal. And it was 108 degrees that day. And it was just miserable. There were 20% of the people who signed up for the race didn't show up. And I found out later on that 30% of the people that did show up didn't make it. Had the highest student did not finish in Ironman history.
Wow.
So mile 87, I was pretty dehydrated. I was pretty weak. And I get to that aid station and I see bodies lying all over the ground. People that, for whatever reason, had quit or couldn't go on. And I discovered why. They'd run out of water. They'd run out of any type of liquid at all. And I knew that if I didn't come up with a solution, I was not going to finish that race. I was going to be just like all the rest of them. And you and I both, you're not a quitter. I know you're tough too. And I never quit. I would rather die than quit. And so I knew I had to find a way. And I knew that my plan of finishing the race in a certain time period was probably going to be over. right? So I had to completely change my strategies. And so the first thing I did is this. The first thing you need to do whenever you're faced with a challenge is tell yourself that you're a winner. It's really important. That psychology is extremely important. And winning doesn't necessarily mean first, second, or third place, right? Because that's what a lot of people think. And if that's what you think, there's a lot of losers out there. And I know that your audience doesn't like to lose, and they don't feel like losers either. So that's not how I define winning. And I'm actually going to give you that definition. It's the fourth step here. So you got to declare yourself a winner. And that's what I did. Well, you and I both know that's not enough, right?
Yeah.
You just can't say I'm a winner and then you win and you finish everything. So the second thing is I had to do, the second step is when you run into a hurdle that takes you off your plan or your game, you need to redefine the situation.
Okay.
Right. And so that's what I did. I said, I had planned to finish this race in 15 hours. And I was really suffering. And so I was slow already. I was already way behind my time. But this was the moment when I needed to take step two, and I needed to redefine the situation. So my redefinition was this: I'm not going to make it in 15 hours. I've trained for a year, about a year, a little over a year, to get ready for this race. I flew all the way to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho from Sacramento. I told everybody on Facebook that I was doing this. So I couldn't just quit, right?
Right. No.
So my new strategy was this, or my new goal was this. I was just going to finish the race no matter what. Okay. I was going to cross that finish line. So I got a new mindset, and I refined the situation, and it was to cross the finish line. Now we could have come up with a new strategy, right? Yeah. So I knew I needed to get water, and I'm going to kind of jump ahead here a little bit. I saw this kiddie pool kind of over in the corner.
Yeah.
And I realized that's where they kept all the water and the Gatorade and everything else. And I went over to it and I looked in it, and there was water in it. It was the ice that had kept everything cold. Well, it was hot water now, and it was filled with leaves and grass and bugs, and it was kind of a dingy brown.
Oh.
I think somebody, might have put their feet in it to wash their feet off or cool down.
Oh, no.
But Christy, I drank that water. I got down on my knee and I drank that water because I knew I needed something to keep going. And so that's what I did. And I'll just ask the question of your audience: what are you willing to do to succeed? Are you willing to drink the dirty water that someone might have washed their feet in? So that's what I did. I got back on my bike. I got off my bike and I looked at the time, and my body was just wrecked at that point. And I realized that I was going to have a real problem finishing the marathon. And so I needed to come up with a new strategy. Number 3.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sometimes you're doing this on the fly, right?
Right.
Sometimes you don't know, I could have come up with a new strategy at the aid station, but it might have changed, which it did when I got to the run part.
Yep.
In the run part, I looked at the time I had left and I thought, this is going to be pretty tough. So my body was wrecked. I couldn't run. So my new strategy was this: do a fast walk. I did a little math, and I figured I could walk a 15-minute mile, fast walk, and finish 26 miles under the 17-minute time limit. And it was a 17-hour time limit. And it was the most painful fast walk, Christy, I have ever done. But this is where step number 4 comes in, because you're faced with that challenge, right? And it's going to be difficult. Sometimes it's going to be really difficult. And this is the most important step of all of them.
Okay.
Finishers are winners. You got to finish what you start, no matter what. I was in immense pain, and I knew I had to do this time limit, and I could walk it, and I could finish it. And that's what I kept telling myself: don't stop. Finishers are winners. Reminding myself, I told everybody on Facebook that I was going to finish this thing, and what would they think if I didn't? So 4 easy steps that you can apply in life. First of all, you need to declare yourself a winner, right? In anything, right? You don't need to be first, second, or third. Step number 4 is finish. Step number 2, you need to reframe the situation. I'd already gotten to mile 87. I only had a few more miles left on the bike and then 26 more miles left to run. It was almost all over. So you reframe the situation. Number 3, you come up with a new strategy. And number 4, no matter what, no matter how difficult, no matter how painful, you finish what you start. I started that day at 7:20 in the morning, and I finished that race 16 hours, 57 minutes later.
So 3 minutes shy of
3 minutes.
not making it.
And I have to tell you, it was so exciting. People were cheering me on at the finish, but I crossed the finish line and I was an Ironman. By the way, if you finish after 17 hours, you're not an Ironman.
Wow.
You just finished the race. So finishers are winners. I love that. I got the same medal, Christy, as the people that finished first did.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know. So is this the first Ironman that you did, that you had this experience?
It was the very first Ironman that I had the experience. It changed everything after that, because I knew no matter what I would tackle in every other Ironman, I had a 4-step process that worked. Whatever I tackled in life or in business, that same 4-step process works. It's very simple. It's easy to understand. And I know it'll work for your listeners too.
Yeah. And I love the finishers are winners. So winners, you have a free gift that you want to share. Is there anything else that you want to talk about before we dive into what you're going to, the wonderful gift you're going to share with our audience?
I think, there's so many things that we could talk about as far as success is concerned, and the things that I help people with to overcome great challenges, or to just get more of what they've got already. If they've got success and they want more success, applying the techniques that I teach works very well, both if you're stuck or if you just want to accelerate what you're doing. I think probably one of the most powerful things, which I just talked about, is finishing what you start. Because here's a statistic that is sobering. 92% of the population, 92% of the people that set out to do something do not finish it. That was a University of Scranton study. LinkedIn did this very similar study, and they found that number to be 89%.
That's still pretty high.
4 points better, but that's pretty sad.
Yeah.
So imagine if you could just finish what you start, you'd be in the top 10%.
Yeah. And, I wonder why that is. I wonder if it's because we have so many distractions, or because we're doing too many things and we decide, oh, well, that one's not important. But that's why it's so critical, especially in business, that we kind of get rid of some of those distractions, get clarity on what we want, and just never give up. Because even if you have the bumps along the way, you reframe that and you come up with a new strategy and you keep going, right? Eventually, you'll get to where you want to be, and it may not even look like what you wanted, because not everything in business is as clear cut as crossing that finish line. But success will happen if you keep moving forward and you never quit.
Right. You'll discover amazing things along the way. The journey is an amazing journey. And finishing is so very important. I think there's a lot of reasons why people don't finish, but probably the biggest one is they're impatient. And if you could just be patient and persistent. Patience plus persistence overcomes resistance. How about that one?
Yeah, that's a great quote. I'm going to have to write that down. We'll put that with your show notes. Quitting is easy. It's easy, but then we feel bad about ourselves afterwards. So when we're able to cross that finish line, it feels so great.
Yeah. It feels great. And here's the other thing. When you finish something, in whatever it is in life, no matter what the odds are, and most of the time things don't go as we plan, right?
Right.
There's always something that gets in the way. But when you finish it, doesn't it feel good?
Yeah.
And you know that if you overcame that you could overcome bigger challenges. And it continues to grow. It tends to grow, and your confidence tends to grow, and your abilities also tend to grow just because you're doing it.
So when we were at an event together, and it was a crazy time for me. It was 4 days, very intense, coming up with our signature talk. And when the talk that I went there with was completely rewritten. And then the second day I got sick. So I pretty much stayed in the hotel the whole day. And then the third day I rewrote my talk. And the fourth day I got up to do my talk, I didn't even know what I was going to say, but all I knew, and on the third day I wanted to go home. I'm like, this is silly. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't like the pressure. It's easier for me to go home, but I stuck with it. I got on stage, I did my talk, and I felt so good because I just did it. So for me, even though my talk could have been better, I was a winner because I did it and I didn't give up and go home. So I completely know exactly what you're talking about. This is just really, really powerful.
You followed the 4 steps. Absolutely. And by the way, your talk was great. It was inspiring. I remembered it word for word almost. And you reframed the situation. Yes. You had a plan, you reframed the situation. You came up with a new strategy, a new speech, a new talk that you didn't plan to do. And you did it.
And I did it.
You followed the 4 steps. It was great.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, you have this amazing gift. How to win in sales 100% of the time, even when the prospect says no. And that's key in sales. We get a lot of no's.
Yeah. Here's the thing. And I love this. I love this approach, and it works so well. And it really goes back to this, and without going into all the details, which if your listeners want to get it, they can get it. It's my gift to them because I want more people to win in life, to win in business. But I'm really passionate about sales, and a lot of people get that no from the prospect, and they tuck their tail between their legs and they go home. And I'm telling you this, it's not about the lemonade. It's not about the lemons. It's about making the lemonades, and you can make lemonade when you think you got lemons. And so that's what my process does. It may not be first. Winning doesn't necessarily mean first, second, or third place. First is pretty nice, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but if you can't get first, second or third is not too bad. And so this process, it's a 5-step process, shows you how to still be a winner, even when the prospect says no. So I'm very excited about it. I would love for your listeners to grab it. They can get it at the 100percentwinner.com. I know you're going to put that in the show notes, and try it out. Like I said, it works well. Write me and let me know about how it's working. There's a place within the product for you to do that. Or if you have a question, I love communicating and collaborating with people that want to win. So go ahead and feel free to do that as well.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Dr. Rich, for sharing that. Again, it's the 100percentwinner.com. We will definitely have the link and everything for that in the show notes below. And if you learned anything from today's episode that you heard from Dr. Rich, please share it with somebody you know, because studies show that if you teach what you just learned, you retain that knowledge and you're helping that person out along the way. Plus, if you love our show, please like, subscribe, and rate our show. Give us some reviews, because the more people give us love on social media, the more chances we have, or the better chance we have of continuing to get amazing guests like Rich Greene. Thanks again, Rich. It was so wonderful having you.
Real pleasure, Chrissy. Thank you as well.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thanks for listening to the Overcoming Mediocrity podcast, where we believe that everyone can have the business and life of their dreams once they've learned the art of mastering their story. Mastering our stories is the key to everything we want in life. Our stories can either hold us back or they can propel us to new heights. We can choose. You can choose. Choose to overcome mediocrity with us. Let's achieve greatness together. To learn more, visit www.overcomingmediocrity.org. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast.